Have you ever stood near train tracks and felt the ground start to shake before you even see the locomotive? That deep vibration, the metal screaming against steel, the wind rushing past you like something enormous is coming. Now imagine that same feeling, but the train isn't crawling along. It's flying. Faster than most cars on a highway. Faster than you'd ever expect something that weighs hundreds of tons to move. You probably think high-speed trains are a modern invention. Sleek noses, electric power, computers everywhere. But here's the truth that almost nobody talks about. Some of the fastest locomotives ever built were created decades ago. Some of them were steam-powered, and many of them pushed speed limits so hard that engineers themselves were scared of what they had created. Today, you're about to discover locomotives that didn't just roll on tracks. They hunted speed. And the most shocking part is how many people have never even heard their names. Picture Europe in the early 1900s. Cars were slow, planes were unreliable, and railways were the backbone of everything. If you wanted to prove your country was advanced, you didn't do it with rockets or computers. You did it with trains. Speed meant power. Speed meant progress. And that's where the quiet arms race began. Engineers weren't just building locomotives to pull passengers. They were building statements. One of the earliest machines to shock the world came from Germany. The DRG Class 05 looked nothing like the steam engines people were used to. It was long, smooth, and covered in metal skin like a bullet. In 1936, one of these locomotives reached over 200 kilometers per hour during a test run. Let that sink in. A steam locomotive. In the 1930s, moving faster than many modern commuter trains today. People watching from the side of the tracks said it didn't sound like a train. It sounded like a storm ripping through metal. The Class 05 proved something dangerous. Steam wasn't outdated. It was just getting started. But Germany wasn't alone. Across the English Channel, British engineers were obsessed with one thing: breaking records quietly, precisely, and with style. That obsession led to a locomotive that still holds a world record to this day. The LNER Class A4 Mallard wasn't just fast. It was engineered with obsession-level detail. Everything about it was designed to reduce air resistance. The smooth curves, the pointed nose, even the placement of pipes mattered. In 1938, during a carefully planned run, Mallard hit 202.8 kilometers per hour. No steam locomotive has ever officially beaten that speed since. And here's the crazy part. It wasn't even a one-time fluke. These trains regularly cruised at speeds that terrified crews. Engineers later admitted that at those speeds, the cab shook so hard you couldn't see clearly. But Mallard didn't just break a record. It ended in... Because after that, everyone realized steam had reached its limit, or had it. Because while Europe was chasing elegance, the United States was thinking big. Really big. American railroads had long distances, heavy freight, and mountains that didn't care about elegance. They needed brute force. But somehow speed still entered the conversation. One of the most shocking examples was the Pennsylvania Railroad S1. This thing didn't look real. It looked like something from a science fiction movie. Massive wheels, a long, armored body, Art Deco curves that made it look futuristic even today. Officially, it was designed for speed. Unofficially, it was a monster that barely fit on the tracks. The S1 could reportedly reach speeds over 160 kilometers per hour, and some engineers claimed it went even faster during testing. The problem wasn't speed. It was control. The locomotive was so long that it struggled on curves. Stations had to be modified just for it to pass through. Only one was ever built. But that one locomotive proved something terrifying. Even machines that large could move fast. Then there's a locomotive that most people outside Germany have never heard of, but rail enthusiasts whisper about with respect. The DR 18201. Built in East Germany during the Cold War, this locomotive was a strange mix of old and new. It used parts from older steam engines but combined them into something completely unique. Engineers wanted to prove that steam could still compete with diesel and electric trains. And they did. The 18,201 reached speeds of around 180 kilometers per hour. In testing, it was incredibly stable, smooth, and powerful. Its red paint and streamlined shape made it look more like a high-speed train than a steam engine. Even today, it still runs on special occasions. A living reminder that innovation doesn't always follow the rules. And just when you think steam was the only crazy era, electric locomotives quietly stepped into the shadows and shattered expectations. In the 1950s, France began experimenting with electric speed in ways nobody expected. One prototype, known as the CC 7107, smashed speed records by reaching over 330 kilometers per hour. That wasn't just fast. That was faster than some modern bullet trains. It wasn't carrying passengers. It was proving a point. Electricity was the future, and the future was terrifyingly fast. Rail engineers around the world took notes. What France did next would change everything. But before we jump into modern machines, there's one thing you need to understand. These locomotives weren't built just to go fast. They were built by people who believed speed could redefine nations. Every bolt, every curve, every terrifying test run was driven by ambition. And the next locomotive on this journey takes that ambition to a level that feels almost irresponsible. Because the next one didn't just break records. It changed how the world looks at rail. Travel forever. If you think the story of speed ends with steam and early electric experiments, you're only scratching the surface. Because once engineers realized just how fast trains could go, there was no turning back. The 1960s and 70s became a turning point where railways stopped thinking in terms of fast for a train and started thinking fast. Period. And that shift gave birth to machines that quietly outran expectations. While most people weren't paying attention, Japan was one of the first countries to fully embrace this idea. After World War II, the country needed efficient transportation and quickly. Roads were crowded. Planes were expensive. Trains were the answer. In 1964, the first Shinkansen appeared. Most people know it as the bullet train, but what they don't realize is how revolutionary it truly was. The original Shinkansen wasn't just fast. It was reliable at speed. It could cruise above 200 kilometers per hour every single day, carrying thousands of passengers without shaking apart. At the time, this felt impossible. Many experts believed rails simply couldn't handle that kind of speed safely. Japan proved them wrong. And once that door opened, other countries rushed through it. France watched closely and then decided to go even further. The TGV program wasn't built to compete. It was built to dominate. In 1981, the first TGV entered service, already faster than almost anything else on rails. But behind closed doors, engineers were testing limits. In 2007, a specially modified TGV set a world speed record of 574.8 kilometers per hour. That's not a typo. Nearly 575 kilometers per hour on steel rails. At that speed, the train wasn't just moving. It was fighting physics. Air resistance tried to tear it apart. The wheels heated up dangerously. Every vibration mattered, yet it held together. That record still stands today for conventional wheeled trains. What's fascinating is how calm it looked from the outside. No explosions, no dramatic noise. Just a sleek machine slicing through the countryside faster than some airplanes during takeoff. And most people never even noticed it happen. Germany took a slightly different path. Precision and testing became their obsession. The ICE program focused on stability at extreme speeds. While Germany didn't chase the highest record, their trains became famous for something else. Comfort at speed. Sitting inside an ICE train at 300 kilometers per hour feels almost unreal. No shaking, no screaming metal, just quiet motion. That level of refinement didn't come easily. It was built on decades of lessons learned from earlier. Riskier machines, asterisk, but while Europe and Japan refined passenger travel, something else was happening quietly in test facilities. Maglev trains. These machines don't ride on rails the traditional way. They float. Using magnetic force, they eliminate wheel friction almost entirely. And once friction disappears, speed becomes a whole new game. In 2015, Japan's L0 series maglev reached 603 kilometers per hour, faster than anything else that has ever carried people on land. Inside, passengers described the experience as surreal. No vibration, no sense of motion, just the landscape turning into a blur outside the window. And yet, despite that speed, maglev trains are still rare. They're expensive, complex, hard to build, which means that some of the fastest trains ever created remain hidden in test tracks, known only to engineers and enthusiasts. But speed isn't always about breaking records. Sometimes it's about what the train was built to do. In the Soviet Union, engineers developed locomotives capable of maintaining high speeds over massive distances in extreme conditions. Harsh winters, poor track quality, heavy loads. These trains weren't chasing headlines. They were chasing reliability at speed, and that made them legends in their own right. China, more recently, took everything learned from Europe and Japan and scaled it up. The country now operates the largest high-speed rail network in the world. Some of its trains regularly cruise at speeds that were considered experimental just a few decades ago. And behind the scenes, testing continues. Faster designs, better aerodynamics, stronger materials. What's wild is that all of this traces back to those early risk-taking locomotives. The steam monsters, the oversized experiments, the engineers who pushed machines beyond what anyone thought was safe. Without them, modern high-speed rail wouldn't exist. And now, here's the twist. Even with all this progress, some of the most extreme locomotives ever built are no longer in service. They sit in museums, storage yards, forgotten test tracks, machines that once ruled speed now silent. But their stories are far from over. Because the next part of this journey takes us into the strange, forgotten, and almost unbelievable side of railway history. Trains that were too fast, too strange, or too dangerous for their own good. Not every fast locomotive became famous. In fact, some of the most extreme machines ever built were quietly shelved because they scared the people who created them. Speed has a way of exposing weaknesses, and sometimes engineers realize they had crossed the line. One example comes from experimental jet-powered trains. Yes, jet engines, mounted directly onto rail vehicles. In the 1960s, the Soviet Union experimented with a jet-powered rail car that looked more like an airplane without wings. During tests, it reached over 250 kilometers per hour. The problem wasn't speed, it was everything else. The heat damaged the tracks, the noise was unbearable, and the braking distance was terrifying. The project was abandoned, but it proved just how far engineers were willing to go. The United States also had its share of forgotten experiments. The M497 Black Beetle was a modified rail car fitted with jet engines. In 1966, it reached 295 kilometers per hour on standard tracks, no special guideway, just raw thrust pushing a lightweight vehicle forward. The test lasted minutes, but the impact lasted decades. It showed that American railways could have gone in a very different direction if priorities had changed. Then there are locomotives that weren't designed for speed but accidentally became fast. Freight locomotives, for example, are usually built for pulling power, not velocity. But during testing or unusual conditions, some reached speeds that shocked engineers. There are documented cases of heavy freight locomotives exceeding 130 kilometers per hour downhill, completely uncontrolled. Crews later described these moments as some of the most terrifying experiences of their lives. And let's not forget military involvement. During wartime, speed mattered for logistics. Some military rail projects focused on moving equipment faster than ever before. Many of these designs were classified, scrapped, or repurposed after conflicts ended. Their stories exist only in fragments, blueprints, and faded photographs. One of the strangest cases comes from Italy. The ETR 200, built in the 1930s, was an electric train capable of reaching 203 kilometers per hour. At a time when most trains struggled to hit half that speed. It was smooth, stylish, and incredibly advanced. Political turmoil and war stopped its development, but its influence lived on, shaping post-war European train design. What all these machines have in common is this: they were ahead of their time. Too fast for the infrastructure, too advanced for the economy, too risky for public acceptance. Speed alone wasn't enough. The world had to catch up. And yet these locomotives weren't failures. They were warnings. They showed what was possible. They forced engineers to rethink safety, materials, and design philosophy. Every modern high-speed train owes something to these forgotten experiments. Even today, testing continues in secretive facilities. New shapes, new propulsion methods. Trains that could one day exceed 700 kilometers per hour. But just like before, not all of them will see the light of day, which makes you wonder, how many of the fastest locomotives ever built are sitting somewhere right now, unknown, unused, waiting for their story to be told? When you look back at the fastest locomotives ever built, one thing becomes clear. Speed was never just about getting somewhere quicker. It was about proving something. Proving that technology could be pushed further, that limits were temporary, that even something as old as a train could still surprise the world. From steam giants that shook the ground to silent maglevs floating above the track, every era had its own definition of fast. What makes this story so fascinating is how many of these machines existed quietly. No viral videos, no global headlines. Just engineers, test tracks, and raw ambition. Some of these locomotives became legends, others faded into obscurity. But all of them played a role in shaping how we move today. And here's the surprising insight. The fastest locomotives weren't always the ones that changed history the most. Sometimes it was the almost forgotten prototypes, the failed experiments, the machines that went too far too soon. They forced the industry to learn, to adapt, to improve. Today, as high-speed rail expands across the world, we're standing on the shoulders of these forgotten giants. And the next time you see a train glide past at incredible speed, remember this. It's not just a vehicle. It's the result of over a century of risk, obsession, and relentless pursuit of speed. So now I want to hear from you. Which of these locomotives surprised you the most? Would you rather ride behind a roaring steam monster or float silently at 600 kilometers per hour? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey through the fastest trains most people never talk about, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because every week, we uncover machines that push limits, broke rules, and changed the world.